Dear students, in this video I am going to discuss about discovery of the electron from the chapter Matter of class 9 WBBSE board. We know J.J. Thomson discovered electron by his cathode ray tube experiment. Though J.J. Thomson was not the only one scientist who worked on cathode ray tube experiment. There were several other scientists like William Crookes, Hitchcock. They also worked on it. Their experiments, theories motivated Thomson to do his amazing work on electron discovery. Let us have a quick journey of the experiment done by William Crookes. For his experiment, he used cathode ray tube, cathode ray discharge tube, or it's also called Crookes tube. The cathode ray tube was first invented by William Crookes. It's a hollow glass tube. Now, what he had done with this cathode ray tube? He took a cathode ray tube, the air inside the tube was pumped out to create high vacuum. In the cathode ray tube was equipped with two metal electrodes, cathode and the anode, one at either end of the cathode ray tube. High voltage was applied between the electrodes. What William Crookes had observed here? He observed that the glass wall opposite to the cathode began to glow with a very faint greenish light. You can see in this picture a green glow opposite to the cathode, right? So he thought that certain rays are coming from the cathode, and when these rays struck the glass wall of the tube, exciting the atoms of the glass and causing them to emit light, and that's why we are able to see greenish light. It's also called fluorescence. These rays are creating fluorescence. As these rays are coming from cathodes, that's why these are called cathode rays. Crookes, Hitchcock, these scientists worked on it, and they used this Crookes tube to discover the properties of cathode rays. Finally, J.J. Thomson was successful to discover the nature of the cathode ray by his experiment in 1897. Crookes tube are now used only for demonstrating cathode rays. In this slide, the picture you can see here illustrate the operation of a Crookes tube. The cathode and anode are attached with a high voltage generator. There is a vacuum pump attached with the discharge tube for creating vacuum inside the discharge tube. Air inside the discharge tube kept at very low pressure. Now, when we apply high voltage between the cathode and anode, we will be able to see a green glow opposite to the cathode. Actually, cathode rays are emitted from cathode and goes towards the anode. When cathode rays struck the glass wall of the tube, the exciting atoms of the glass causing them to emit light. That's why we can see the green glow. So, Using this cathode ray tube, several scientists did experiments to discover the nature of cathode rays. In the next slide, we will study about the experiments done by J.J. Thomson, and we will be able to know how he did the experiment and was able to discover electrons. Thomson modified his experimental setup to discover the nature of cathode rays. What were those modifications? He provided magnetic and electrical field in the path of cathode rays. Basic setup was same as Crookes experiments, that is the cathode ray tube was evacuated to create high vacuum inside the discharge tube, and high voltage was applied between the cathode and anode. Thomson observed that in electrical and magnetic field, cathode rays are deflected from their original straight line path. Cathode rays are getting deflected towards the positive plate in electrical field. So, Thomson came up with the idea that cathode rays are consist of negatively charged particles, which are electrons. See a cathode ray tube. In the previous slide, you saw the basic cathode ray tube, but there was no fluorescent screen. Here you can see that a fluorescent screen is here in the cathode ray tube, and the basic setup is exactly same as you saw in the previous slide. Here cathode, and here you can see X plates and Y plate, these are anode. Okay, so cathode rays are emitted from cathode and travels towards the anode, and when it struck the fluorescent screen, a glow will be produced. Actually, cathode rays are invisible. When it struck the glass wall or the fluorescent screen, we can see a glow. In the fluorescent screen, fluorescent chemicals like zinc sulfide is used. In fluorescent screens, the glow is more visible. That's why it will be more visible if we use fluorescent screen. The next one, here you can see that the magnetic field is present, and if we apply magnetic fields, then the cathode rays from their original path will get deflected. Same happens in case of electrical field. In presence of electrical field, the cathode rays are deflected from their original straight line path, and cathode rays are getting deflected towards the positive plate in electrical field. Here we will discuss about the properties of cathode rays observed by Thomson. Number 1. Cathode rays travels in straight line. Cathode rays can produce mechanical effect. If we place a small paddle wheel in their path of traveling, the wheel will rotate. This proves that cathode rays possess material part, that is mass, by virtue of which they can cause a mechanical motion. Number 3. In electrical field, cathode rays are deflected towards positive plate. This indicates that they consist of negatively charged particles. In magnetic field also, they show deflection from their original straight line path. Number 5. Cathode rays can penetrate through thin sheets of metal. Means it can goes through um, thin sheets of metal. Number 6. If we place a opaque object in their path, they cast a sharp shadow of that object. Number 7. Thomson's measure specific charge. What is specific charge? Specific charge is the ratio of charge to mass, and a specific charge equal to charge by mass, and he calculated the specific charge, and this specific charge is same for all cathode rays irrespective of the gas used in the tube. So it proves that electrons are basic fundamental particle of an atom. Now I am going to discuss about some questions that may arise in your mind. First one is, what is the source of electrons in the cathode ray tube? You may think that the electron from where the electrons are coming from in the cathode ray tube. As the cathode is a metal plate, so electron can come from it. Cathode rays come from the cathode and they strike the gas molecules and ionize the gas molecules inside the tube. And from this ionization, for this ionization, the gaseous atom lose electron. So the electrons come from the cathode as well as from the ionization of gaseous atom. Next question is, why high voltage is provided in this experiment? High voltage increases the kinetic energy of the electrons. The electrons having high kinetic energy in turn increases the number of effective collision. Thereby, the probability of removal of electrons from the gaseous atom due to ionization increases. That's why high voltage is necessary in this experiment. Next question. Why is cathode ray tube evacuated to low pressure? Actually, at higher pressure, there will be more gas particles. So, number of collision and ejected electrons from the gaseous atom will increases at high pressure. That decreases the energy of the electrons and hampers the experimental observation. That's why cathode ray tube is evacuated to a low pressure. Here you can see one application of cathode ray tube in classic television set. Cathode ray tube was used. You can see the picture here. I hope you understand the lesson. Thank you all.